Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Power Playbooks.
Hey everyone.
Happy Wednesday.
It is Wednesday. This week has felt like a year. No, I'm kidding. Well,
Yeah,
I don't
as
know that
soon
I
as
am.
Thanksgiving.
I don't know that I am. Guess who I saw today, Sarita, in person, and we took a picture together, and I was hoping to share that picture, but I didn't get it in time.
Who?
Our friend Richie Laser, who has not missed a webinar. In fact, he might miss today because we're at an event.
If we were Delta Airlines, Richie would be Diamond Medallion. He is
He
our
would be
number
diamond.
one
No, he would be
frequent
Diamond Medallion
watcher.
Plus. Yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure. So I'm excited that I got to see Richie and he came right up to me. I love it when I see you guys at events. All right. I'm just
See a
Awesome.
lot of familiar names.
Yep, we'll give everyone just a minute or so to get situated, and then let's kick it off. We'll give everyone a minute.
sounds good.
This
Where are you guys joining us from? Virginia. Hi, Vance. Vance is second to Richie.
Yes.
Vance does
Well,
not
Steven's
miss.
up there too. They all are. I'm sorry. I love
There's a
everyone.
good
Oh,
group. Yeah.
there's Richie. There we
Steven
go.
is up there. Steven, you're okay. Yeah, but is Richie here? Richie, you
Yeah,
didn't say
and remember,
photo.
guys, comment to everyone, then everyone can see where you're from.
Yeah, I love this.
Awesome.
Bethany, I'm going to
Richie,
see this.
Cynthia, Bethany. Whoa, awesome. Yvette, Michael, Stephen, Vance. Yeah, we got a great George A. Wow.
Charlotte Mabry.
Woo.
George
This is
A.
a good crew. This is a good crew.
We have so many. This is great. It's a good
Cool.
group.
Well, I'm going to kick us
Yeah.
off. Hi, everyone.
No,
I'm
hi, Joe.
Sarita Dua from Portland, Oregon, and I've got my lovely co-host, Vija.
Just because that needed clarification.
Yes.
Clearly.
The one and only Vija, who we call Oprah lovingly, because she is the best interviewer around.
Okay.
Vija and I have the pleasure of hosting Power Playbooks every Wednesday at noon Pacific time, where we meet with industry rock stars in all different areas, talking about an element of their business that they're really, really great at, and they get really specific, sharing playbooks on what they're doing today that works for them. Our goal, of course, we can be like The View and we can chit chat because that's a lot of fun, but we want to get real specific and give you nuggets that you can take away and apply to your business today. And with that, I have the honor of introducing our panelists. We've got two amazing panelists. Both of them are not strangers to Power Playbooks, and we're really grateful for the time and generosity that they put into attending and sharing everything. They're so open book. We've got Sarah Tadlock and Travis Bard. Sarah joins us from massive team that she runs in multiple states, Illinois and Missouri, with 3 different brands. She's going to talk all about it when she does her brief intro, and Via's going to get right into it. But she has an amazing team and is based out of St. Louis. And Travis runs an expansion team as well with multiple locations with their hub in Arizona, in Prescott, Arizona. And with that, I think I can just turn it over to you, Via, and you can get deeper into their intro as well as what our topic is today, which is how to attract teams to your team and how to make it all work.
Yeah, that's right. Can you guys hear me okay? I just switched to my AirPods. Okay, good. So I am in Phoenix. I'm in a hotel room in Phoenix. Shout out to Debbie and Taylor DeGroat, who loaned me their room to come use. I got to step out of the event. So fun life with Via on the road. Okay. So by far what you all have been asking me about, because when I see you at events and I, talk to you on Zoom and I'm meeting with all of you guys in my role, I'm the head of industry at Place. You are all asking me, how do I incorporate a team within my team? How do I merge and acquire a team? It comes in different language, but it's basically that question. And or how do I bring a retiring agent's book of business, onto the team, and or a transitioning retiring agent who might be on their way, but maybe has another year or two where they want to cherry pick and help with the transition. These are by far lately, and I think it's market driven, the conversations that you're asking me about. So we had Sarah Tadlock on whenever it was, and we'll drop a link to that. And it got massive amount of responses. What we didn't do during that webinar was go through the technicalities of the financials, because let me tell you all right now, it is technical. So if you are driving, I think that's great. Listen, absorb. You are going to for sure going to want to replay this with your notepad in front of you so that you can pause it, take some screenshots of the slides. Trust me, you will, because it's going to confuse you and it's going to be technical, and that's okay. I would take this just for the spirit of it, and for the, understand that the kind of the framework of it and the mindset. I'm going to just start off right now. If any of you have this brewing, and you have an opportunity, just go ahead and reach out to me. You can either email me at powerplaybooks@place.com or via@place.com. We can do a one-on-one, because this is very complicated. I'm helping 2 of our partners do this now, and a third. I'm helping 3 partners do this now. So I just wanted to kind of preface it with that it's going to be a very technical one. Travis is going to focus on the retiring agent and legacy agent, but I'm going to start with Sarah, because I think that's going to be a little bit more comprehensive, and Travis is going to weigh in and jump in as well, and that'll lead well into that discussion. Okay.
Can I say one thing before you start, which is we both are with Place, as are Sarah and Travis, but everything we talk about today is going to be useful no matter what team you run, or if you're thinking of starting a team, no matter what brokerage, and whether you're with Place or not. So it's very
Thank you, Sarita. Yeah, I didn't, you're right. Like sometimes that just comes out because it's my day-to-day. So I appreciate that you kind of clarified that. All right, Sarah girl, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to dive in. While I'm pulling up the screen, would you kind of tee us up to how this happened the first time? And I think you're working on this for the second time, right?
Yeah, we successfully had our first, our first sub team was about 18 months ago. So we proved the model through financials. So what I'm going to share with everyone is a very real scenario. And then we just launched this month. We launched our second allied team through our current brokerage. And we cross states, and next week we are launching our third, and that is going to be an affiliate team at another brokerage outside of where we're at. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's so there really is no limit, and what we are going to walk through this, what I used to call a team within a team model. It's us helping solve the pain points that every single person is feeling right now, whether they are a high producing solo agent or a small team. We're all experiencing similar pain points, and so I'm excited to dive in, because this opportunity I really think is how top teams are going to be growing moving into the next 5 years.
Well, I love that. And I noticed, because you and I collaborated with Sarita on the deck, and I noticed that you titled it Allied Team Model. And I really loved that title, kind of for that purpose. I think it makes everybody honored in the situation, like another team doesn't feel like they're being acquired or, merged, or they're a team within any type of a team. They're an allied team. And I just wanted to kind of shout that out, that from the gate, I like that. All right, let's start here, Sarah.
Yeah, so I know you wanted to kind of have me tee up just my background. In the last Power Playbook, I walked through just how I got to, to this position. And so I'm not going to bore anyone and go back. So I highly encourage, if you're coming in for the first time, go back. There's so much gold in their decks and all of the past webinars. I think that, how long have you guys been running this for? How many months now?
I don't know.
Probably don't even know.
Forever.
It's a huge library. So
I don't know. Abby is the voice of God, because you can't see her, but she's here. Abby, how long has it been? I don't know. She'll have to put it in chat.
Yeah, my only point of that is if anyone has experienced a pain point, we can go back. Abby put 6 months. There's just a ton of gold and content there. So highly recommended. So
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that.
of course. So we are all leading a team of some sort, whether it's a team of one or a larger teams. Our team right now is a team of 22 people, and we have strategically grown, but we're really growing through a deep model. And so we've already solved the pain point for ourselves. And so why couldn't we come in and build the same opportunity for a small team? And the example that we're going to walk through is a team that is of 2 agents and the Rainmaker in full-blown production. So I'm going to start here because I think where most people get hung up is on the how. So most teams that are built have some sort of legal entity. And they're usually through an S Corp, and they're registered as an LLC. So that corporation obviously is used to paying the expenses, the staffing, all of the, commissions are deposited and distributed. But this entity will still exist. And so if you go to the next slide, what I'm going to do is walk you guys through, just so that we're all on the same page of the acronyms and what we're using, because some people are really familiar and others are not. So we're going to speed through some of this, but GCI in our business, gross commission income, is the revenue, right? So this is all the commission that's paid into an entity. So these
I would say this is the total top line commission. So if you sell a $300 and something thousand house, let's just make this up. Oh man, we got to be careful with commissions these days. Forget the purchase price. We're just going to make up an arbitrary commission amount, not based on any type of percentage. So we're going to call everything we talk about is going to be a $10,000 commission, right? So, and the reason I corrected is because if it's $10,000 and if you're sharing it with another agent, Sarah, 5,000 of that never comes into your bank account for most people. So it's kind of confusing. It's really actually confusing. Some teams actually would consider 5,000 as gross revenue, right? Where we're actually talking about that $10,000 number, right? The total top line commission number. Okay.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. Because a lot of us, we've always got to know where our money is being spent, and all numbers have to be tracked. So what, from my experience, as I've been talking to other small business owners like ourselves, is that, and this is where we were, but most of them are not running on a profit and loss statement. So this is part of the education process. So, so GCI is top line revenue, is the total amount of income. The next part is cost of goods sold. And so this is income. So you and your team members will always be paid as a cost of goods sold. So for us, this is the cost of what we would be paying an agent on our team. And as in our world, we call them operators. So I am an operator. If I do a transaction in our business, I would also pay myself a cost of goods sold because I would be paid as an agent. So I am a business owner and I am also an agent. So all agents will be paid based upon our splits and personal production. Via, I'm going to use you as my gauge to make sure. Is there anything else you feel with experience you want to clarify here?
I would simply said cost of sale or cost of goods sold is anything you pay to an agent or your brokerage in our world. So if you're a team operator, a team lead, and you have a team, anything you pay out to agents, and what Sarah's saying is, and that could be yourself, but anything you pay out to agents is a cost of sale or COGS. Anything you pay to your brokerage, a cap, anything like that, that's it. Simple, very simple.
Awesome.
What it is not, and what I do see on P&Ls, what it is not is transaction coordination or any of that. We actually consider that an expense. So heads up, this is
Yep.
only splits you're paying agents and only things you're paying brokerage. All right.
Yep.
Speaking of expenses.
So, speaking of expenses, so after cost of goods sold, which is its own entity, the next largest portion of dollars out is going to be your expenses. So in your current world or these current teams, this is going to be transaction fees, listing fees, or what it costs for photography, for marketing, for advertising. This is every other expense outside of what a salesperson, which is the cost of goods sold.
Mm-hmm.
So in our sub teams, these expenses are now all absorbed by the hub. So the hub team is going to pay for all the business expenses. So we take over any payroll if applicable, all of the lead generation models, the marketing expenses, the advertising. So everything then comes off of the operator, which in real estate we also the terminology rainmaker. But that rainmaker is an operator is typically splitting their time between working on the business and in the business. And as we know, we get bogged down in a lot of those items, which then drags down our personal production, which we'll address here in a later slide. Anything else, Vija, that you'd like to add on expenses?
No, that was great. I would just restate that the team that's making the lead team is the hub in this case, right? And they take over all expenses of the team coming in. End of story.
Correct. Yep. And in addition to the time and the management of those expenses, which I'll address in a time slide. So a profit and loss, you have your top line GCI minus your cost of goods sold minus your expenses equals your net income, which is your profit. And so this may be a very familiar concept for most people from a knowledge perspective, but 95% of the business owners in real estate that I meet with have never truly run and know their net profit for their team. And so that's what we're going to walk through as an example so that we truly understand how that is calculated and why it makes an impact. And I see Travis's hand up, so I want to make sure not to miss him. Travis?
Yeah, I just want to add to that because the key to your point right there is the reason that they don't know that is because they've never put themselves on a split as their agents are on. And until the rainmaker puts themselves on a production-based split similar to their agents, they don't know, they're not able to track revenue properly, cost of goods, and expenses. And they end up combining thinking that everything that comes to them is profit when some of that is pay for their time in production and shouldn't be classified as profit.
Yes, and that's a great point. And we're going to walk through that. That right there is the biggest paradigm shift that when we're walking these teams through, I see Vija nodding, that we actually, unless we are paying ourselves as cost of sale, the value of our business and the profit of our business is actually artificially inflated. And so, Vija, if you want to go to the next slide, we'll walk through that.
I do, and I will just put a pin in that. The number one thing that I walk teams through, and many of you are on this, I've walked you through coming into partnership with us. The number one thing I have to walk people through is that concept. And any of you here watching, even if you never want to, bring in another team, but you do want to start sliding out of production and creating a different life for yourself where your team's income is what your personal income is. It's your personal income's not reliant on you selling homes. The first thing you need to do is start paying yourself the same split as you're paying your agents. It's the very first step to replacing yourself. So any of you here who want to replace themselves, pay yourself the same split as your agents, because then what happens is it's a simple math equation how to replace you. Until you do that, you are supplementing the business and you have no idea what that math equation is. Okay, sorry.
Love it. Okay, so this is the simple economic flow chart. All right, so you have your top line GCI revenue minus your cost of goods sold minus your expenses equals that sub team's P&L net profit, and that income, and that is actually what we're in discussion with, of a partnership. And so most people, when they think of joining a team, we addressed this on the last webinar, they think of splitting the top line GCI. Well, truly, this is a true partnership model. All right. We're only splitting in the profits. And so you see down here, the Partners LLC. So that is what we had discussed, that business entity. We pay that back after the business month is closed. When profit hits, we then split based upon what level they are at. A percentage comes back to the sub team's company, and then the other percentage comes back to our hub team, which in our case is our main entity, which is our main place entity.
Okay, so Sarah, let's break this down. Yeah, let's break this down a little bit. So number one, the agents all get paid first. So the agents producing on the team, including the Rainmaker, there's actually not a lot of difference for them, because if they were on a 50-50 split, they're still on a 50-50 split. So let's start there. They don't feel any different. The actual agents, they get paid first. Everybody, the agents will always get paid first on this, number one. Number two, we are calculating expenses on this pod, on this allied team. Even though the hub is paying the expenses, we are still calculating the expenses. Yes?
Correct.
One of my questions is on that. Do you have, do you sort of say, all right, you've taken up 25% of the marketing person's time, we're going to bill back 25% to the sub B&L? Or
that's a great question. And I think this, again, will be very helpful for people that think granularly. So after doing this, the way we started was in that percentage of use. That's not a scalable model. And so what we came up with was, in the expense model, this is where the power of a partnership comes in. Because in the next slide, and we'll get there in just a second, most sub teams are running around 30% of expenses. They're trying to add value, and so they're hiring people to support their team. The problem with that is that in a team, let's just say on average, let's say that team, their budget allocates for $150,000 worth of salaries. Well, you can only have so many people. Most of the time, when you're supporting a team, you're hiring emerging talent. Usually that first hire someone makes is typically between a $40,000 and a $50,000 income. That one person then has to be everything for that team. They're the director of operations, they're the marketing coordinator, they're the listing manager. They're now making all of the brochures. I mean, they're doing everything for that team, and that person is emerging talent. And as that team scales, you're able to hire, but it's the same as being a solo agent. When you're a solo agent, you have to do everything, both the sales and operations. And as you're scaling a small team, when you hire your first person, that person then has to be everything to that company. And it's very difficult, because what we know is that a marketing person's skill set is very different than a transaction coordinator. Can we agree? Those skill sets are two very different items. So specifically, when we bring in a sub team, and we're able to take over and manage all of those expenses. They're then plugging into our already well-oiled machine. And so we have 6 people that are all in their strength zone. And so instead of paying and having a salary for each of them, they just pay us back a transaction fee. And so for us, that transaction fee is $5.95 for each transaction. And so for every 100 units this sub-team produces within our shared expense model, it's around $60,000 of salary. And so that is the key. That's why they will never be unprofitable, because they're paying to play. So they pay per transaction. Now, all the other expenses are pretty straightforward. So when they have a photography fee, it's put on their sub P&L, and we run all those expenses per their own P&L. Does that answer that question?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
awesome. So. All right. So let's get into the nitty gritty of the numbers. So if you go through to our first example, and Vija, I am a fast talker, so I want you to stop me if something comes to mind that and a question that you see in the chat. Okay, so we've already went through how a P&L is calculated. All right. In the sub team, these are expenses that are only allocated for that sub team. And so my director of operations, she has everything broken down granularly. They all have their own card. And so everything that's allocated for that allied team goes on that card. And then the only thing that's different is the transaction fees for the staffing. So if we go through and you click to the next slide, so this example is one operator.
Oh, sorry, jeez, Louise.
Thank you. Yep, there we go. So the first example is one operator with 2 high producing agents. Okay, most of these agents have hit kind of a threshold of production. And so this is how they were calculating their current business in their current P&L before they joined me. So let's say this current business was 1.1 million in GCI. Okay, there are 2 agents, which as you guys can see here in the cost of goods sold, on average, they were earning around 100,000 per agent. So 2 agents, 200,000. So their cost of goods sold, because they were not paying themselves as an agent, their cost of goods sold was around 18%. Does
everybody understand that? Hop on chat if you do not understand. She had this particular team had 2 agents doing 400,000 in GCI. Okay. Each agent did about 200,000 in GCI. Therefore, each of those agents were paid 100,000 because they were on a 50-50 split. I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yes. And we're running this with the assumption that everyone is on a 50-50 split. I know some teams are structured differently. So you can run your own percentage, but for this example, we're going to make the assumption everyone is on a 50-50. Then you have your expenses. From my experience, most teams that are at around a 600,000 top line GCI or greater, their expenses are running anywhere from 28% to around 35%. So for this example, we're going to run a very average number of 30%. So their total expenses to run this team was around 330,000. So this operator or rainmaker believed that their profit was around 52%. And so what I did was I pulled their cost of sale for the operator, which you can see down here in the gray, operator cost of goods sold was at 350,000. And where I got that number is that if you took 1.1 million and you divided it by 2 and you subtracted the 200,000, that leaves 350,000. Okay. So in our net profit, the true net profit of this team was 220,000.
Okay, so
Yep.
let me stop you right here because I want to, this is in the weeds and it's very confusing if people are not used to seeing this. The operator did about 700,000 in GCI in production in this scenario. And these are numbers we want to honor privacy. These are pretty accurate numbers. These are fairly realistic numbers. I'll leave it at that. So there was two agents that did about 200 GCI each and an operator who did about 700 GCI each. The operator thought they were walking home with about 570,000 a year, which is a really typical thing for them to think. What Sarah's saying is, well, actually, you sold 700,000. So what we're going to do is profit first model. And we're going to, which is a great book, there's a great book called Profit First that I highly recommend. What we're going to do is say, actually, you are on a 50-50 split. You should be on a 50-50 split, just like your agents. So we're going to take that off the top and we're going to pay you 350, but then we're going to run the same formula. And guess what? Even then you're going to have a 220,000 net profit, right?
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yes. And it's going to become more clear here in a second. So if you flip to the next slide, so the very first thing that I do when in conversation with a potential allied partner is I break their profit and loss down where it is currently. So that was the first one. And then I show them what it actually is. Walking them through that, I pull their cost of goods sold out. So with that said, I run them in their own profit and loss, and then I show them what it would have been if they had been with us the same year, okay, taking into consideration that nothing changed, which I'll walk through, which we know if you take off half of the things that are weighing an operator down, off of their plate, there's no way that they do the same amount of production. And I'll walk through that in the next, in 2 slides from now. So if they were with us doing the same amount of business, they would have had 1.1 million in top line GCI. Their true cost of sale with the operator being paid is 550. So that's a total.
Which is 350 to the operator, 100 to each agent. That's how we got to the 550.
Correct. Or 50% of your top line GCI. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the operator is in the black circle and the agents are in the white circle. Kind of gives you a little rule of thumb to go back to. In our world, my sub-teams are operating between a 12 and 15% expense, okay? This is the power of partnership. We aren't having to pay for 2 director of sales. We're not having to pay for 2 client appreciation events. We're not having to pay duplicate of everything. So what happens is it brings our true cost of our expenses down. And so my first sub-team actually ran at 12%. But what I'm showing you guys is the highest because I want to show you a very conservative model. So let's just say they ran at 15% of expense. And so that's 165,000 that is in total expense. So their true net income of the business is running at 385,000. Okay, so click to the next slide. So this is showing, okay, so this is what my sub-operators are earning. 350,000 in their personal production. The operator profit, okay, in this model, over 100 units, they're at a 50-50 split. So 50% of the 385 in net income comes back to them. And if you add in their personal production, what we pay them as an agent, and their percentage of profit, their total income is at $542,500. Okay. And if we take that number and we divide it by how the top line GCI, that is showing them at around 49.3%. You guys, there's very few teams that as you scale, right now it's okay for them to be around a 50%, but as you scale, there's very few operators that are.
No, I never see this. I've never seen
that
50%.
Are over. So
ever.
I'm just letting you know that, yes, when you're an operator and you're in full-blown production, it's very common for you to feel like you're around 50%. But as you start to succeed through others and scale your team, most teams that are over $1 million to $2 million in GCI, if they get to that number, they're running around 20 to 25% profit. So
at the most.
Correct. So our goal at this moment is to help people build highly leveraged, highly profitable teams so that as they scale it, they can scale it quicker and easier, and we can protect that profit. So if you go to the next slide.
Really quick, I don't want to go past this slide yet. Couple things. Number one, I think y'all should screenshot this slide. If you're thinking about this, I think this is a slide to screenshot, and you can kind of stare at it and process this one. Number two, I want you to just pay attention to one thing. We're doing an apples to apples analogy. We're saying, hey, on your own, you did this. With us, you would have done this. Okay. So the current business and the operator production columns are the comparisons here, right? Like in our next iteration, we'll color code that. We'll color code those two because we're really comparing those two columns. What do you guys notice is the difference to them? Is it almost the same? 570 versus 542. It's almost the same. Here's the big thing I want you to take away with this as somebody who has been a professional recruiter for, I don't even know how many years. The key here is getting them to accept and understand the current business column and accept that that's what they're actually making. Don't go over to the operator side and continue the analysis until you are positive that with their own numbers, they themselves understand, right? They themselves understand what they're actually making, not what they think they're making.
Yeah, and I'll share this. So we built this for you guys to understand it. What I do in an economic model review, I actually build them their own economic projection. So I go and get their true P&L and all of their expenses, and then I build them what they may not even have a P&L. So if we're building one for them, I'll make sure that they understand the current P&L of where their business is. And then we help them have that paradigm shift that if you were in our world, knowing everything that we would have taken off of your plate, I'm going to show you the assumption of what it would have been if you did the exact same amount of business. And I've been doing this long enough that it's every single time it's very, very close to being equal to what they would have netted. Now, here's the caveat, is that I know that they wouldn't have done the same amount of production because that's our job, is to come in as their partner and take off the non-dollar producing activities. And so if you go to the next screen, Vija, I'll walk you guys through that. This is why it works, okay? The operator buys back 50% of their non-producing time. This is managing. So if you see here in a solo team in the white, this is managing the contract to close, managing marketing, managing events. This is the support of the mailers and the newsletters. Like, typically this operator is still bogged down in all of these things, everything that is considered in operations, or they're managing an operations manager. Most businesses can't afford that person yet. So again, they have emerging talent that's trying to do everything to everyone. And that person only goes to the operator for that support. And so that weight as a leader, you're now still leading and managing that process. Additionally, when we take off that time, that operator is able to reinvest it into their own personal production if they choose. And I'll talk through that. More time to recruit, retain, and develop agents. Most rainmakers are so in the weeds with doing everything that they truly can't come in and nurture those relationships to have them grow. And so why it works, everyone is in their strength zone. This is the power of partnership. So you can see it in the solo team. And this is the same concept that we share with solo agents that we are talking about in these team within a team model. So their time, this white time, this is all leveraged out now to the hub, and this frees them up to do what they do best. So
by giving them all this time, because I want to wrap this part up and go to Travis. By giving them all this time, then we're going to go into projecting, Sarah, right? What they, we did the apples and apples. Now we're going to say, hey, it really wouldn't have been apples and apples. Now what we're going to do is build what we think you could have done or certainly can do in this next first year with us.
Yep. And we'll wrap up here. So the last part, this is what on average, so we're going to skip past the first two because we've already reviewed that. On average, our sub teams are seeing about a 25% increase in production. This is conservative first year. Okay, so at an increase of 25%, that puts us at 1.375 million, which we are usually adding a minimum of one agent. Now, I added a net of 3 agents to my last sub team because that was my job, was to help them grow. And their expenses were around 15%. So their net income was $481,000. Now, this operator, I only had them growing at 10% themselves. This is conservative. A lot of operators, as I'm seeing, their goal is start to get out of service and out of production, and we can grow that through agent count. But they still have to learn the productivity rhythms. So if their personal production increased by 10% and the top line business increased at 25%, you can see down here when you add these two numbers together, their GCI increased to $625,875. The percentage of profit is 45%, but the most important piece is that operators' personal production is now only 56% of the total, which this is how we scale it to beyond just them. And now each of their agents now have a growth trajectory because they're around higher producers, that their glass ceiling has been lifted and we start to grow each agent. So I'll stop it there. I think, was that the last slide, Vija?
Yeah, that's phenomenal, Sarah. I know I speak on behalf of everybody watching. Everybody's been wanting this. I've been wanting this, to just have that in the weeds breakdown of the financials. I can't thank you enough. We will send you guys something. Some of these slides, something. Email us at Power Playbooks or email me at Vija, whatever. Just email us and say you want it, and we'll put something together for all of you guys who want that. All right. We're going to move over to Travis now, because I do want to have time to talk about, this is another hot topic I'm getting. I think this market is ripe for this, Travis, with this retiring, I know you call it legacy agent, but just to be clear, so everybody understands, this agent that either immediately wants to retire or might be like saying, hey, I just want to kind of phase out over the next year or two. you did this. You want to just kind of tell everybody the story and walk us through how that worked for you?
Sure. And I think that conversation was very helpful, Sarah, because you talked a lot about the how. But I think what's really important here is also the why. And you talked about that person that's looking to grow. And maybe they're also looking to simplify their focus and stay in their lane better. But they're looking for something kind of on a go forward basis. But a lot of people, they're going the other direction. How do I phase out? And so there, we just have to understand the why. Are they looking to retire? Are they looking to just simplify? Are they looking to let responsibilities go to somebody else? A lot of times this is that person that's been in the business for 30 plus years. They have a database that's enormous. And that's what we experienced with Susan when she wanted to retire. And once we understood her why, and it wasn't I want out now, I want to phase out. Because for a lot of people, retirement is a process. It's not like retiring from a company where you come in one day, you've got cakes and a party and a box, and you put your stuff in the box and leave, and they shut the door behind you and you don't go back. In our world, it's a slow process, which is a good thing because a lot of us are wired so tight. It takes a while to slowly wind things down. So a lot of our legacy people, they want time, but they don't want the responsibility. They don't want to hire another person. They don't want to do payroll. They don't want to worry about marketing. They just want to come in and do the stuff they enjoy when they enjoy it. And that's what the legacy scenario is so much about. So it's it's understanding that motivation, understanding what their strengths are. But a lot of it also is really doing a deep dive into what have they created? Do they have systems? Are they still operating in a shoebox, literally and figuratively? Or do they have a CRM? Do they have people that will stay? What do they have? What do those resources look like? Then we can truly understand what's the synergy? How do we marry our strengths to their strengths and create a process for them to open the next chapter of their life and live what I like to refer to as a Corona commercial. We want to live the Corona commercial where we see our feet, sandy beach, beverage of choice right here, and the waves splashing over. And that's what we're trying to help them with.
Love that. Love that. So walk us through, Travis, how you structured this with your agent.
So in our case, and this can be done a lot of different ways, I like to keep things simple. So what we looked at is a huge database. And we said, okay, we're going to pay you. And this is me as the owner, not my company or anything else. This is me buying that business. So we said, okay, every deal that comes out of your database that you as the retiring agent don't do, but one of our agents, somebody that we put in place, every deal that we do, I'm going to pay you a fee. We're going to calculate
a percentage of that commission.
Percentage of that transaction, the commission. I'm going to pay you a percentage of that. And that's my PLLC to their PLLC. It's not a commission. It's not paid through the brokerage. It's a fee to them based on transactions that come out of that. And we set it up on a sliding scale over 3 years. So at the end of 3 years, if a deal comes in from that database, there's no fee due. And then at that point, basically, I own the database 100%.
So when you say sliding scale, it starts at a high percentage and then it gradually moves down. And then by the 4th year, it's at 0.
Yeah, it went down a little bit each year.
And I'm surprised to hear you say it doesn't. I would have assumed that's a referral fee. So you're saying it's not a referral fee. So you pay that. So
there's probably a dozen different ways to structure it. We didn't structure it that way because we didn't want capped royalty and things like that to have to come out of it.
Or your brokerage.
If she's still on our team, I didn't want an agent split to have to come out of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it. Okay. So, so you did this. What did it look like as far as, she transferred all of her database in? Do you tag them in the CRM? How do you identify that?
It was already her CRM. We were lucky because she was she was already operating under the same umbrella that we are, the Place umbrella. Okay. So it was already a CRM, same CRM system we're in, but it was its own clean database. So we didn't have to reclassify anything. We didn't have to do anything. But if we were to integrate them fully into our CRM, it would have been with tags saying this came from Ramsey database. So we would have known that way, but we had them already separated and left them that way.
How did you communicate to her database that this was happening, or did you? Maybe that's part of the approach that you don't.
There's a couple of different ways, things that we did, and I've rebranded over time, and I learned 6 or 8 years ago the best way to rebrand is very quietly and subtly, rather than a big announcement. It's a lot simpler. It's a lot less confusing to people. So we did a little of that because she didn't step out of the business completely. She was in that slow ascent to retirement so that she could get her bearings, know what it felt like to not show up at the office, show up 4 days a week instead of 5, then 3 days a week instead of 5. So she was still showing up, but we just started telling people. She started introducing the next agent and letting people know, I'm starting to work towards retirement. You're going to be working with Darla on this transaction, or you're going to be working with Michael on this transaction. So she started that introduction. Then about 3 or 4 months before she finally said, I'm ready to retire. She swallowed that pill. She was ready to show up there that had done business with her 30 years prior.
Wow.
The value of a legacy business is people would come to celebrate. They had second generations. I think we even had a 3-generation scenario that showed up.
It's really cool.
Mom, grandma had done business, son had done business, grandson had done business, or whatever the case.
That's really cool.
And they came to honor her, and they came to welcome us because we had done it over time. Yeah. And a slow announcement, but not just a cut the ties.
Yeah. In all of those introductions, Travis, as the team owner, team operator, did you kind of take ongoing relationships and then you assign them to agents, or do you just send them straight to the agent and you don't act as any kind of an intermediary?
I didn't want to act as an intermediary because that would have just put me right back into her position where you're trying to uncouple from the face of the company. Yeah. We want the company to be the face. So at that party, and believe me, the last thing I wanted to do was take the glow off of Susan's place. We bought her a crown. She walked around with a crown on.
I love that.
And I just sat in the corner watching her revel in the glow of all of the people come to celebrate her. And that's what it was all about. So with that, they knew that this was a handoff. The people did. We didn't have to say anything.
Okay.
The scenario created that for us. And
okay. That was the people at the party. Let's talk about people who, aren't really paying attention, aren't that aware, and make that call or that inquiry one day. It's been, years they're not paying attention. And a guy named Joe says, "Hey, I'll help you." And they're like, but no, I wanted Susan. I called for Susan. What does that sound like? What do your agents say? And what do those scripts sound like?
That can be simple. If somebody says, no, I need to talk to Susan. Great. I don't know if Susan's in Mexico right now, but if she's not, I'll have her call you within 24 hours. She's going to refer you back to me most likely, but we're still partners in a lot of ways. I mean, and I believe that anytime we do a legacy business like this, it should be that way, that we're just helping them literally create a legacy. And her biggest desire was that those people that she dealt with were going to get and given her love and her heart to would receive the same kind of treatment, whether it was from me or from Andrea or from Jasmine or from Veronica, whoever was there. That was her want and desire. So that's our goal, is that same level of care and heart and service And it's incumbent on me to make sure that we've got the people there to do that. The other thing that we did is very similar to Sarah, is we still run all of the back end operations out of our hub, so that we can keep that a low cost operation, high scale. We've built a transaction team to do a very high scale business. We've done that over the past few years. And so we still do that from our hub.
Travis, let's talk numbers a little bit. How many people, give or take, in her database? How many transactions walking into this retirement? How many transactions a year was she doing? And maybe give us an idea of what year 1, 2, and 3 looked like.
18,000 people in the database.
It's a big one.
I got involved the year after COVID, and candidly, we were starting from scratch.
Yeah. Okay.
Because she had transition on her team beforehand. So we started from scratch. So we're building back. Our goal is to be back north of 100 transactions next year.
From that database.
Just from that database. Because we're not paying for leads. We've got too many leads there to worry about. We're not paying for leads. We're not doing anything that we're good old fashioned prospectors. We're mining that database for business.
And so what you're saying is she did not do 100 transactions that year that you took over, because she kind of already left. Elvis had left the building, basically.
She had in prior history, but the year beforehand, no.
Okay. So in prior history, give or take, you replicated, sort of a typical year for her on her own. If you kind of took an aggregate of years, what I'm hearing you say, which is amazing, is that you replicated that. I haven't heard that before.
That's our goal. We're still working on it, but
that's the goal.
Our momentum is that we haven't got back to her 2019 year, but we're going to. And what it boiled down to is it's a fun challenge to take a database that knows what it feels like to be treated really, really well, and come back to them and say, we want to do this for you next time.
Yeah.
Would you give us the faith and the trust to do this again? Susan, like I said, I can still get her on the phone. She jumped on our Power Up call Monday and lit up the room. It's just the glory of Susan Ramsey. So she's still working.
Susan didn't go to Mars. She's still around, right? I mean, that's you can retire and still pop in at your
She sent a contract into the TC team a couple of weeks ago out of the blue. So so there's still that resource.
There you go, Scott. It sounds like she just did that. Yeah,
she does.
So Travis, if she has 18,000 in her database, and in traditional years she did 100 transactions, what can everybody expect? Did you do 25? Did you do 50 that first full year? What if you had to guess? I know I'm putting you on the spot because you don't have the numbers in front of you, but
I've got the numbers. It was a unique situation, and there's some layers I can peel back that I'm not going to do here. But I mean, we're 30 to 50 transactions is what we do in a couple of years.
Okay. But so I'm hearing 30 to 50%, and then expectations. Are you in year 2 or are you in year 3 then?
We're ending. Now. We're 20 months into it.
Okay. So what is it looking like in year 2 if you had to guess? If it's 30 to 50.
Yeah, we're tracking. We've really hit a stride. We've got people. Andrea Madison's doing a great job for us there. Jasmine's doing a great job for us there. The agents are doing a great job because we do have an operations person there helping. They're doing a great job. The fourth quarter of this year, we're tracking to be on that 80 to 100 unit yield this coming year.
Fantastic. That's really fantastic. That is huge for everybody here listening, because as your projection is increasing, your referral fees decreasing. And, Scott Pinella weighed in and said exactly what was on my mind, is that clearly she can pop in and do a deal if she wants to and just be on agent split. It doesn't sound like, there's no reason to stop that. She can work her own database if she decides to take one, because it's the same, the economics are the same, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The timing of this conversation is so valuable. How many people are just kind of ready to quit? They don't know if they have another tough market in them, and they want something out of their database. They want to monetize it. They just don't know where to turn. And we've got a process now that is deliberate, is patient, it honors the person, and it gives them like that soft landing as they exit and build a life with more and more time for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a huge issue in real estate. And as we build, to Sarah's point, as we build the infrastructure to do this, to provide a level of service, to provide a launch pad for people to do that, we can monetize something that typically hasn't been monetized. Usually the last transaction a lot of these agents do is the last check they cash in real estate. And there is a lot we can do. And what it does two things. It allows them to create a literal legacy with their business. And it allows us to grow the future of ours. And it's not always that direct handoff. You know, you don't have Brett Favre retire one season and Aaron Rodgers win the Super Bowl the next in these legacy businesses all the time. It can be the rebuild. You know, it can take a little bit of time, and it's implementing systems. It's understanding, because a lot of these people literally still have their database in a shoebox.
Yeah,
they built this business. They built the business based on knowledge, their personality, their relationships, the neighborhood that they grew up in. They built it that way. Our job then is to systematize it, to implement that and to integrate it into what we have to offer. And that's not always a smooth, easy transition.
Yeah. We have 1 minute left. I want to challenge everybody watching this live or on replay, every single person watching this or listening, if you're just listening to it, who has a team. Every single one of you challenge yourself in the next 90 days to have a lunch or a coffee with 2 or 3 agents who you think might be on their way to retiring. I think this is one of the best market-driven opportunities we have right now. And many of you have very prominent names and are very well respected in your marketplace, have a lot of market share. You are the perfect people to do this, right? Most people think of this as just most agents in my market anyway, I'm in Seattle, Washington, think of it like you just you do this, you pick a protege, you hand it to one person. They don't think about a team necessarily. And there are so many benefits to doing this as a team. And the biggest one is that I've rarely heard database being worked that hard and numbers increasing from this. And I ran brokerages for a long time. And that is because it's a well-oiled team. An individual agent would not and could not do that. So I just want to close it with that. Thank you, Sarah and Travis.
I have one real quick piece to that, Vija.
Sure.
Don't assume that age is why they're retiring. They may retire because secondary income, an investment portfolio, they and their spouse are doing something different. So it might be a 40 or a 50-year-old person, not a 70-year-old person. So look at the situation that they may just be looking to simplify. And it's not because they've been doing it for 40 years. They may have just.
So if you notice, that's happened to me in this market. If you notice a really prominent agent who's just phasing out, you're right, Travis, that's a really good, again, way to end it. If they're phasing out of production in any way, regardless of age, take them out to lunch, take them to coffee, rekindle that relationship, right? You guys, anyone who has a team, you're the people to do this because you are prominent and you're already doing big business in your market. You're well respected. And so I just want to challenge everybody here. Almost every operator that I talk to and coach and consult and talk about place to, I'm encouraging this right now. So Sarah Tadlock and Travis Bard, I cannot thank you enough. This has been extraordinarily helpful for me and beneficial for me. I can only imagine how helpful it was. So I hope you get a lot of love. I hope you get a lot of text messages and people blow up Facebook talking about how great you guys were today, because to me, this was a phenomenally clear and concise, in the weeds, technical one today. And so I really appreciate you guys. For all of you, with Sarita and I have a great interview lined up next Wednesday, but they haven't confirmed. So I don't want to say their name, although that is typical of me. But it's going to be fantastic. and I want you guys all to join us next week. So thanks, everybody. Talk soon.
Thank you, guys.